So welcome everyone to the Hemp Truth, Lies and Legends podcast. I'm joined here with my co-host Michael Klepas. I am Tom Pankras of Hemp Drying, Michael Klepas of Natural Materials Unlimited, and Morris Beegle from We Are for Better Alternatives. But he has a lot more on his plate than that. So maybe you can give a little introduction about yourself, Morris, to begin with.
Sure. Yeah, so I'm Morris, and some of you, or a lot of you, may know who I am. I produce NOCO Hemp Expo, which a lot of folks are familiar with. It's a big hemp expo here in the United States. I also work with AHA and produce their event in Europe. We did one in Prague last year and doing one in Berlin this year. I've got a media platform called Let's Talk Hemp, put out informational content about the industry. We curate stuff from around the world. I've got a podcast on Let's Talk Hemp as well called Volume Up. I've got a hemp paper company, Tree Free Hemp, at treefreehemp.com. We do marketing collateral like business cards and posters and brochures and so forth on a blended hemp paper. Got a hemp guitar company, a couple of them behind me here. So electric guitars with a composite body using hemp wood and Canna Grove. Couple of cool board products, make amplifiers and cabinets as well. Had some really cool hemp guitar straps made for me a while back. I'm still waiting on my new one that was promised with a hemp leather. I'll get that one of these days, right, Mike?
Yeah, I promise. We can talk. We can talk about that.
Sure. And I've done a lot of hemp T-shirts and hats and stuff. It's kind of part of the event platform. So I've dabbled in a lot of things, and I travel around and I speak and advocate and try to be an ambassador for the industry and the plant. And want to see this thing, do what it can do for humanity and the planet. And there's a lot of struggles out there, which I'm sure we'll get into on the episode here.
Yeah. Well, I would say about all the cannabis people in the world, your name for me is up there with like Jack Hare.
Oh, Well, that's a compliment. That's the first thing I read back in the mid 90s was his book. And so it's like, wow, I had no idea that hemp can do all this stuff.
Yeah.
I just got high when I was in high school and in college, and it's like, hey, that's cool too. But when you can, all the T-shirts and all the industrial applications and bioplastics and construction materials and carbon sequestration and all that stuff, it's like, wow, can do all kinds of stuff. And we've been using it for thousands of years.
Nice.
So what are we going to shoot the shit about here, gentlemen?
I don't know. Is there anything recently that's been making you maybe a little frustrated about the hemp industry, globally or locally?
Well, yeah, I mean, policy in the United States has been challenging since the get-go. Things really blew up in 2018, 2019. Trump had signed the farm bill that really opened up the doors, and we had a huge oversupply. And, the cannabinoid CBD market was pretty flooded, and the price started to plummet. And going into 2020, we knew that there was going to be some attrition coming in the industry, but then the pandemic definitely threw a wrench into everything globally, and particularly here in the U.S. with our markets because we had such an oversupply. And all of a sudden, with this oversupply, this stuff started getting converted into new molecules and biosynthesized, THC and stuff. So all of a sudden, we have a whole range of hemp intoxicants that are hit the market. And it really kind of came out of nowhere, where people will say, oh, the way the language is, that stuff was going to be coming anyway because it's derivatives and so forth. And I mean, you can look at the language and you can certainly make the case for it's all legal generally based on the language, the way it's written and the derivative and so forth. But we've been saying hemp doesn't get you high for however long. I mean, you mentioned Jack Hare. It's like, industrial hemp was here, cannabis, adult use, medicinals over here. That stuff gets you high or intoxicated or impaired or whatever word you want to attach to it, which we still have a linguistics problem as to what vocabulary we're going to use because our industry can't agree on, well, intoxicating, what's that? Impairment, what's that?
Right.
But anyway, so now we've got all these hemp-derived products that are basically adult use products that should be 21 plus that are getting in the hands of kids and the packaging. And it's like, they're all over the place, and it's a billions of dollars worth of business now. And it's confused policymakers and stuff. And a lot of people are trying to put the kibosh on this at various state levels, and nothing's been done at the federal level. And it's just created a lot of confusion in the marketplace. And it's definitely distracted from the growth of the fiber side and the grain side, and why most people got into the hemp industry originally in the first place. CBD came along, and it was like, that was a little out of left field back in 2013, 2014, 2015. All of a sudden, that's the driver of the marketplace. And
Right.
that stuff is not, getting you stoned and getting you high. It's really a dietary supplement. It's got a lot of health and wellness benefits. CBG, the same thing. It's like, okay, well, those fit into the natural products market, but now we've got all these adult use market things that are getting into gas stations and smoke shops and stuff like that. And it's created issues here in the U.S. And I know that it's spreading into Europe and other parts of the world. That's created some challenges and divisions within the space, because adult use space is like, hey, you're infringing in our marketplace. And I understand where they're coming from, but a lot of those companies now are getting into the hemp drive space because the regulatory aspect is easier. There's not as many compliance things that you have to go by, and the margins are better. And so, that's definitely created some unique challenges in our space. And we'll see if the Farm Bill does anything with this stuff this year. If we get one, which I think we will, it should happen, since you got Trump and you've got the Republicans holding the House and the Senate. So I would imagine that we'll get something done, whether we're going to like everything in it or not. But I assume it's going to get done.
What are some of the... Go ahead, Don.
Oh, you are of course very close with the entire U.S. hemp industry. Are there also active talks with the major players like the American National Hemp Association with the government, or is that still completely separate and there is no direct line to communicate the possibilities of hemp, what the industry needs?
Most of the organizations are pretty aligned now. We've got, in 2023 at NOCO, we had all the organizations come together and kind of agree on like 10 bullet points for the Farm Bill. So we had the U.S. Hemp Roundtable, National Industrial Hemp Council of America, Hemp Industries Association. There's like 30 organizations. The National Hemp Association didn't really join in on this group thing. They're going to be at NOCO this year, several of the representatives. We all basically agree on the same thing. And those guys had been focused on really the fiber and grain side of thing. They had a piece of policy called the hemp exemption that then became the Industrial Hemp Act of 2023 or 2024, which everybody generally agrees on, separating that from the floral and the cannabinoid side of hemp. And it's going to be regulated kind of as a fit for purpose. If you're growing for grain or you're growing for fiber, you can identify that visually, less testing. You don't have to do background checks. I mean, this is really, a true ag crop for traditional farmers that are growing soy and wheat and corn and, all those row crops. And we want to be able to rotate that in. And that's grown obviously differently than it is for cannabinoids and bushy horticulture type stuff. And so we all agree that it needs to be regulated differently in the field and downstream as well. So I think we're pretty aligned on that. And we're going to have a good group meeting at NOCO this year in a couple of weeks. Obviously this could come out like 6 months from now. I don't know when it's going to come out, but I feel good about the alignment of the industry and having a pretty unified voice on how things should be regulated. There is some interesting stuff going on though, because there's folks that have a direct line into the White House, and the White House is supposedly, and I believe that it's true, looking at how do we regulate cannabis? What do we do with it? And so the Trump administration, while Republicans in general have been anti-marijuana, anti-adult use, they're generally supportive on industrial hemp. The intoxicants they haven't been real supportive on. But here's the thing. with all these hemp-derived cannabinoids, and they're in gas stations and thousands and thousands and thousands of points of distribution already. And it's really hard to shut this down. So word on the street is that the Trump administration may say, you know what, this is the pathway in the marketplace. It's all going to be generally hemp-derived beverages, and you've already got these points of distribution. We're going to put in a framework, and that's going to be the regulated cannabis market, because it's already out there, it's already in place. And to try to take that and put it back in a box is it's basically impossible. And if the Trump administration would do this, then it's like, wow, Trump and those guys actually did something for the cannabis space, and they would come out looking like heroes for the most part, because they're the ones who actually did something. The Biden administration didn't really deliver on what they said they were going to do. Everybody's failed up into this point, but Trump could become the hero to some degree on this, which would be interesting. And I think that we'll have a clearer picture of what that's going to look like in the next month or two, honestly, if that's going to happen. So there was talks about it last night at the Cannabis Chamber of Commerce, and I've been hearing rumblings about it from some of my friends and people who are involved in Washington, D.C. So to me, it's all kind of bullshit until actually something truly happens. So it'll be interesting.
Well, we'll see.
Because if that happens here in the U.S., we obviously influence the rest of the world in a lot of policy things regarding cannabis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's very good to hear that the industry, the industry organizations are quite well aligned in the U.S. to also make the distinction between the fiber and the grain side, the cannabinoid side, and then aside from that, you have the cannabis for medicinal and recreational. It is important to make the clear distinction for the legislators, but also for the public. Because
and then you've also got the pharmaceutical channel too. I mean, that there is a pharmaceutical channel, single molecules for true drugs and medicine. And I think that we just need to figure out how to define all these different lanes or alleys or aisles or whatever you want to call it. Bob Hoban, his new thing is kind of like aisles in a grocery store. So, and that's truly how it should be done. And again, I don't think it should be done in the field where, oh shit, it's 0.3%. Now it's at 0.6%, and the farmer has to destroy their crop. I mean, that just makes absolutely no sense. If it's going to be going into, like we talked about before we got on air, a guitar strap or a T-shirt or hempcrete or a bioplastic, I mean, who gives a fuck if there was 20% THC in that plant at some point in time? I mean, it makes, if that is a more viable fiber or, the input material, it's not being used for human consumption. Why does it even matter?
One of the things that really gets me recently is, so like I'm first and foremost, for me, I consider myself a sustainability entrepreneur before hemp, so like everything that I do has some sustainable twist to it. You know what I mean? Like I've been in regenerative agriculture since before it was really like a buzzword, like I remember I was at NOCO in 2018 maybe, and regenerative agriculture, that was like the buzzword that had been going around a lot. Then I was like, okay, I like this word. Like I had never really called it that, It's like I was kind of in like the permaculture movement, and I was into aquaponics and things like that. But the point is though, is like you read all these SDGs, these sustainable government goals of European Union, and carbon goals for 2030, 2050, etc. Or even if I'm reading even a book about sustainable fashion, hemp is mentioned maybe once. Even bast fibers in general. Like if you were to just ball all of them up, linen, hemp, nettle, canaf, sisal, jute, and so on, it's like, how are these amazing, extraordinarily strong, cool fibers not getting the limelight right now? I don't get it.
Well, I think they're starting to a bit. They're more so now. You're looking at these fast fashion companies, H&M and Forever 21 and stuff, who are supposedly trying to jump onto the more sustainable natural fibers thing to become slower fashion rather than fast fashion. And they need to, because so much of the shit ends up in, they'll ship all the oversupply to Africa or whatever, and then it just ends up in waterways and landfills. It's like, send the garbage to Africa that nobody else wants. That's, they make all this product and they sell 20 or 30% of it, and the rest of it, it's like, what are we going to do with it? Because we got to keep making new stuff.
Right. I have a friend from Kenya. She says 90 million tons of polyester get dumped in Kenya annually.
Yeah, maybe we were talking about that before. It's like super crazy. But you bring up regenerative agriculture, and that's one thing that I feel really good about with NOCOS. Since 2014, when we started it, Doug Fine was our keynote, and he had just released Hemp Bound. And Doug was the one he was talking about regen ag back then. And David Bronner and John Rulick from Nativa. We had Ray Archuleta speak a couple of times, who's a regen guy. So we've been involved with that, that buzzword and that, that type of farming practice and what we preach the whole time. And it's really important. I'm glad that I got familiar with it 10, 11 years ago. I mean, there's experts on that. I'm not a subject matter expert on regen farming, but I get the whole grasp of why it's important and why we don't want to destroy our soil. And it's good to have grazing and, cover crops and taking care of the soil and sequestering carbon and microorganisms and all of that. And hopefully it's catching on more and more. When I put out the Let's Talk Hemp newsletter, I always, I get hemp news, and I always add a regen ag thing in my newsletter, because it's just an important thing that, we now see McDonald's and we see Nestle and Kellogg's, and they've got their, whether it's greenwashing or not, some of it is to a degree, but at least they're talking about it. And Cargill and Syngenta, and again, maybe a lot of that is greenwashing, but it's better that they're talking about it and they're investing millions of dollars to at least make it look like they're doing something, because hopefully they are doing something.
Right. Before this whole regular plastic straw thing happened with Trump, I don't know, and I honestly don't know what's going to happen, whether companies do go back to plastic straws in America or not, because I don't live there full time. But I had heard that people were finally looking at, wax, like soy wax, which is just hydrogenated soy oil, if we're being honest. Soy wax impregnated papers, making higher quality straws that don't just fall apart after 5 minutes in your drink.
Well, the thing is there's like corn plastic, maize straws, and then there's hemp plastic ones too. That the hemp straws that are out there now, they're way better than the paper straws. Right. And paper straws themselves aren't very environmentally friendly either. Some of the dyes and the glues that are used, it's like, are they any more eco-friendly than the plastic straws? So it's kind of ridiculous that Trump's like, I'm signing an executive order for plastic straws. It's like, oh my God. But there is a flip side to that, because the paper straws do suck. And there are better alternatives that are out there. And hopefully, RFK and some of the other people that actually have an environmental consciousness within the administration will say, hey, by the way, there are these alternatives that we can manufacture here in the U.S.
Right.
And, they are a better alternative. They don't dissolve. They're just as good as regular plastic. And, it can boost industry. Again, it's soy, corn, hemp. You can make straws out of those plants.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Start from the natural materials, set up the value chain for it, and it can create local farming benefits, and create local manufacturing jobs, and provide good products to the public. So
right.
Could be.
Well, another problem is Trump is a drill guy, and so more petroleum, and that means more byproducts. So, and that can be petrochemicals for agriculture. It can be plastics. It can be all this. So it's like, where do these byproducts go now? Or is there a way to divert those type of byproducts into something else that is less impactful on the environment? I mean, we're not getting away from petroleum anytime soon. So how do we make it less impactful, negatively impactful on the environment, since there's going to be a lot of that out there?
Yeah. Yeah, it's
I don't know. I don't have an answer for it, but we still got to do something with all the byproducts that are being created from petroleum.
yeah, that's a hard thing. I also feel the pain in my heart when I think of it. All the more petroleum on the earth. Yeah, in the end, I'm afraid there's got to be a little cover of plastic all over the world, and there's no possibility for nature or life to survive. And then that's
I mean, how much plastic do we have in our bodies right now?
No idea.
Yeah.
I don't even want to think about it.
Too much for sure. But it's like, are we consuming a couple of credit cards worth of plastic every month, or how much are we consuming based on drinking out of plastic bottles or just breathing air? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just found out that those tea bags aren't paper.
What do you put in water?
Yeah, apparently it's plastic.
That's crazy.
It's such paper feeling that we just assumed it was paper. Apparently, it just puts in millions of pieces of microplastics.
Well, I mean, that makes sense. You put that in hot water, and then you've got the herb there that that the plastic's leaching into, and so it's like, and then you're drinking it, and then
why not?
Yeah.
Sounds perfect. One of the things that really got me into sustainability was this idea that our meat suits should last 120 years. Like if the world was a giant blue zone, and we were all in this like kumbaya world where there were so much less carcinogens and so much less of this and so much less of that and so much more abundance of good things, then our meat suit should be able to last a while. Like imagine still being like as fit as a 65-year-old person at 105. Like I'll take it.
Sure.
And so that was me, 20 years ago. I'm 40 now. That was me 20 years ago going, because I was reevaluating my career. I was an aircraft mechanic. I'd come home just black, covered in grease, covered in hydraulic fluid, jet fuel, whatever. And I'm looking at myself in the mirror going, this is really going to affect me negatively someday. You know what I mean? Like I love the job. I love designing things, fixing things, engineering things, but I'm like, something's got to change. And then I started using my project management skills to look at agriculture, look at like all of the waste, and then that's kind of how I fell down the sustainability rabbit hole, because I'm like, okay, the more efficient we can make the world, the more sustainable we can make the world, the more we can use hemp and all these other materials, the better we can have good longevity as humans, And now that I'm a dad, I care even more.
Right.
So But
Yeah,
I love less microplastics. I tell people, close your eyes and disappear everything synthetic. The only thing you're left with is metal and cellulose, essentially. So I want to know, how can we use cellulose, in more ways? And there's so many interesting ways. Actually, you know what? We'll go off of that. What are you have so many innovative things presented to you because of who you are and all the things that you do globally. What are, like, off the top of your head, besides hemp plastic and all the basics, what are you seeing that's just like mind blowing going on around the hemp industry?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I mean, there's this whole graphene thing that people have talked about for a while, hemp graphene and battery power storage and stuff. It's nobody's scaled that. I would like to. There's this Wisconsin battery company that has supposedly got a bunch of money and is working on it, but I don't know how real that is either. You see people put stuff out on the net. I mean, that's certainly interesting. Can we replace lithium with nano hemp fiber? And what are the other applications of that? And can we, put it into weird composite things for airplanes and cargo carriers and stuff like that, and really replace more toxic input materials with these nano hemp materials? and cellulose stuff. So it's like that is super interesting if we can make that happen. And you see these biocomposite events and stuff, and we've been leaning that way too. It's like hemp's not the only thing. You've got all these other materials like you already mentioned, plus bamboo, mycelium mushrooms that you can make industrial materials out of. So there's a lot of ways to utilize nature that we haven't done yet, but I think that there's some good R&D that's been done and stuff in the lab and small scale stuff. But how do we actually scale these innovations so they actually can make a real impact? There's a gal in South Africa that reached out to me. She's doing like pottery type stuff out of hemp, that instead of using glass or ceramic type stuff, she's making all these cool pieces utilizing hemp hurd and some unique binder that's her secret sauce. And they're all lightweight and high margin and stuff. And it's like the art aspect for me is always something that I appreciate, coming from the music industry, doing guitars, doing cool shirts, doing posters. I like the creative element that can be incorporated with hemp materials. So that's something that I'm interested in. Oh, and another thing, there's a company called Nepra Foods in Denver that they're an ingredient company, and they've been working on all kinds of specialized hemp ingredients, and they've got some formulation stuff that's really easy to plug into baked goods. So, whether that's pretzels, cookies, breads, and making it gluten-free and allergen-free. So that's exciting. And they're working on a new protein that's like an 85% hemp protein, be the highest one that's in the marketplace. And whoever's working with them to develop that is like one of the top guys on the planet, who's created like the best pea protein, the best soy protein. And so he's got his technology that's now been utilized with hemp. And you've got Nestle and Walmart and some of these big food companies that are really interested in incorporating hemp as an ingredient into their products to clean them up, because there is a push for cleaning up our food system and removing synthetic dyes and shit that's not good for you. That's one of the good things that Kennedy has pushed with the MAHA movement, Make America Healthy Again. Again, it's kind of funny that Trump would jump onto this. This is more of a liberal thing, and things are pretty upside down right now. Black is white and good is bad, and the sky is not blue. But the food side of things, if we can make some progress there, and hemp could get incorporated into the food system way more than it is now with an affordable ingredient, farmers can make money on it, people get more nutritious food with less shit in it, and then the byproduct of that would be animal feed. And if we could start feeding that across the board to more animals and not have to go through these extensive research things that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars to get something approved for a cow to eat or for a pig to eat, it's like the process to get some of this stuff approved, when there's plenty of data out there that shows how nutritious hemp seeds are and hemp seed oil. It's like, what else do we need to do? Do we really have to go through all these processes and spend all this money for this ingredient approval thing?
Right.
So we'll see. That's another positive potentially for this administration, because they're like, let's get rid of some of these regulatory hurdles that make it hard to innovate and to get product to market. So I'm hopeful of that. Whether it'll happen or not, I don't know. It sounds good, that some of the stuff that they put out, but we'll see where things are at here in a couple of years.
Yeah, I also have high hopes. I mean, as like an entrepreneurial minded person, as a business person, I understand the need for regulations and stuff like that. But I mean, after being, especially in Poland for almost 15 years, where things are like way more regulated in different ways, it's like, man, doing business in America is easy, and I would love to see it easier. There's a correlation between the ease of doing business and the GDP, 100%. You know what I mean? And it's not just about tax laws and all that other stuff, but it's like, yeah, if you make an environment where the entrepreneur can thrive, then everyone can thrive.
Sure. But on the flip side of that, you've got big corporations that'll take advantage of it and start dumping shit into waterways because they've rolled back some of these environmental regulations and stuff. And so that's the downside of it.
Right.
There has to be a good balance between letting people do business without the hurdles and the obstacles, and then having big companies take advantage of that where they're really fucking things up.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And child labor laws. I mean, you can go down the list of a variety of different things, work environments and stuff. So, where is the balance on that?
Yeah, I'm always thinking of these, PFAs and the mouth of every river emptying out into the ocean just being a dead zone. You know what I mean? I've never really publicly said it, but now I'm going to say it just because it seems appropriate. Like, I'm not one of these sustainability people who's like, oh, climate change, the sky is falling. I'm one of these people that's like, listen, I can think of like 20 super concrete, non-arguable things like microplastics, like acidification of the ocean, like, oxygen depleted zones, and like all of these other things that if we were to focus on fixing those things, the result may be helping this climate change. But certainly there are things that you just can't debate. So for me, climate change and all this stuff has turned into like a political tennis match. Let's just talk about concrete things that we can solve, you know what I mean, with good business practices, and hopefully not letting corporations give us a soft kill like they've been doing since the 1930s.
Well, unfortunately, there is a segment of population out there that just denies climate change regardless.
Right.
And it's like these people don't think that humans are having an impact when it's undeniable that they are, just like you said, if you look at these certain things with dead zones and acidification and depletion in the ozone or whatever, and the carbon level. Well, what is that? Back 50 million years ago, carbon was a lot higher and the planet was green, blah, blah, blah. But it's more complicated than that.
Absolutely.
And, people don't trust science anymore. And there's legitimate things where established science can be basically like a religion. And they hate to hear that, but it's like, vaccines save lives. Okay, well, traditionally, yeah, but then you roll out all these vaccines and the safety protocols and their liability and stuff. It's a for-profit business, and it should be my choice if I want to put something in my body or not. My body, my choice, regardless of, we should have that autonomy over our body. And when you have marketing campaigns and you have the media saying all this type of stuff, and then you look back on things and things were blown out of proportion, they weren't true, then people start not trusting things. And if there's scientists say this about the climate, and it's like, actually, well, they're wrong on that. And it's like, see, science is wrong. It was their best guess at the time, maybe, or maybe there was financial incentives so they could get more research money. So it's challenging now with science has been discredited in a way by certain situations over the years that, and now people are like, it's all bullshit. We've been lied to. Everything is bullshit. I don't believe anything the media says, it's not true.
That's a pretty rough stance. Like, I'm a very I married a scientist. Her parents are scientists. Like, I'm a blue collar guy. Like, I come from, whatever, and any blue collar job you can think of. If my family's done it, we're a Polish immigrant family, right? And it sucks because science is a journey. You know what I mean? There are not too many things that become a law versus becomes a theory versus becomes, a principle or whatever in science.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's like a lot of things are being constantly tested, and there's so many things that we absolutely just do not understand, Right. The
age of the Earth. I mean, it's like, well, the age of the Earth is 14, or the universe is 14 billion years old. Well, now the new theory it's actually like twice that old.
Right.
That came out a couple years ago based on whatever. It's like, and not everybody's adopted that. And it's like, well, is there even a beginning? Has it always just been here? Was there ever a start? It's like,
Yeah.
do we really know? And how can we truly figure that out? We're just like a tiny little speck in this huge, expansive thing. We don't know how big the universe is. It could never end. I mean, is there an end of the universe, or is it completely infinite?
Yeah. That's all. It's super wild stuff to think of. I was introduced to this concept today. I don't know. Maybe we'll do a little pause in the recording or something like this, because you just got to see it. I'll try to put this up on the video. You guys can see it here. That is a gravitational representation of the Earth, where the blue spot is, I think, the highest gravity. It's called Potsdam gravity potato. Never heard of it, but it's a representation of how the gravity around the planet changes in different places. But the gravity is so different there. This gravity well is the size of India, but it's the flattest spot in the ocean. It actually makes it like, I don't know. It's the closest to Earth you're ever going to be while being on water. It's literally a flat spot because of this gravity well that I never even knew existed. Like, I thought we were on this really nice sphere, I'm not a flat earther, but I don't know. Let's get back to Hemp for now.
The core of
We talked
science.
earlier about an artist. I have a friend here. He's an engineer. He's been working on, it's 80% hemp. It feels like terracotta, so it feels like a clay pot, but it's 80% hemp and 20%, some kind of rock mixture. Like, it's not like lime, like what you use it with hempcrete. It's something else. Like, it's cold like terracotta. It absorbs water like terracotta. Like, if it's a pot, if you drop it in a bucket of water, it floats. Like, it's the weirdest thing. I've seen them put a welding torch to it. It doesn't burn. It doesn't get hot. It's a wild material. I'm trying to figure out how to help him commercialize it, because he's an engineer, inventor extraordinaire. There are so many people like that here in Poland, but then how to, get this idea out of Poland into the world, commercialize it, monetize it, help it to change the world. So he doesn't know if he's going to be making tiles or bricks or pots or stuff like that. Me personally, so Oksana DeVoe, do you know her?
I know that name. I don't know if I've ever
So
spoken to her.
Oksana DeVoe, shout out to her. She does Devo Home, originally in Ukraine. Right now she's been in the Netherlands a lot.
Yes.
She's really made me kind of dial back on my dreams of long fiber. Like, I've had, ever since moving to Poland, I've had these dreams of long fiber where, of course, I'm also listening to the local Polish people. We're going to bring back long fiber, and we're going to start having, textile quality fibers, and we're going to be using our spinning mills again and making fabrics and doing this and doing that. And now I'm pivoting towards supplying greenhouses with short fiber products, like little biodegradable pots and mats that they can grow sprouts on and things like that, because in the European Union especially, carbon credits are now going towards peat bogs. So peat bogs are now staying, the peat is staying in the ground because carbon credits are paying to keep it there. And coconut fiber products, which are obviously from tropical regions, are being treated differently in the European Union because of deforestation laws and all this other stuff, where now it makes sense to use waste from bast fibers like nettle and hemp and linen to make some of these fiber products. So that's kind of what I've been focusing on recently.
Well, that's lower hanging fruit with probably higher margin, and the long fiber thing definitely has been challenging.
Yeah,
China's got it figured out. Looks like France is figuring it out pretty well. And China is actually buying long fiber from wherever they can get it. They need more.
Yeah. 80% of
there is a market for it.
goes to China.
And it can be produced in the U.S. It can be produced in Europe. But it is challenging. I applaud Magic Kowalski for all the stuff he's doing there in Poland, and he's getting the word out. I mean, he's obviously a really good influencer on LinkedIn, gets a lot of activity, and he's trying to do his apparel stuff. He's sending me stuff for NOCO. He's sending me some beanies. He was going to send me some dress shirts, but he's not quite there yet. He's has to make some adjustments, but I appreciate him because he's working hard and he puts out good information. And I love seeing that type of energy of people trying to do cool stuff and move the plant forward. And again, it's nice when people from around the world are doing these cool things. There's a gal in Vietnam who puts out good stuff on Facebook, and she came to the Asia International Hemp Expo. And you got these little influencer people all over the place that are doing some pretty cool stuff.
Nice. Any others that you'd like to mention? Yeah, Mache and I, we're not. I would say we're colleagues. Like, I don't know him well. He lives a few hours away from me, and we bump into each other here and then. But he's doing winter retted hemp fibers. There's actually a really, speaking of winter retted, there's a big grow going on right now that's already from this last planting season to be harvested. 10,000 tons of winter retted fiber in Finland right now. They're looking for extra funding to finish their decortication line and stuff like that. So that's pretty exciting. They believe up there because in Finland in particular, it's so difficult to actually have crops that you can grow because their growing season's so weird, right? Because they're so close to the Arctic Circle. He's saying that, out of all of the commodities that we can grow, hemp is actually one of the most beneficial for us because it plays nicely with our weather when they can actually grow it. And then the winter retted fiber from Finland is a very good quality because it gets so cold that it doesn't actually over ret. I haven't actually seen it and touched it. It's versus Mache stuff yet, but I'm excited to see it. He thinks that they can get up to 50,000 hectares
in Finland.
In Finland, yeah.
I've talked to a couple people in Finland. They've reached out. Somebody came to the Prague show last year from Finland. There was a group there, but somebody had reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, "Hey, we're really trying to do stuff in Finland." And I'm like, that's interesting. The Scandinavian countries and what they can do there because of the climate. So, yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if it's the same people I talked to that you're referring to. Probably.
Yeah, we can compare notes for sure. There's a couple of, like family offices and VC firms and stuff like that who really want to invest like, hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions, in sustainability. But I think some of them, are generally just like pretty gun shy because there seems like a lot of unknown knowns going on in the hemp world right now where it's just like, yeah, we want to invest in hemp, but there's no farmers. And the farmers are like, hey, yeah, we want to grow hemp, but there's no processing. Mm-hmm. And so it's just like,
or what are there genetics that are going to work and provide the yields in our climate?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because if you haven't grown it in a particular place and all of a sudden you want to grow 50,000 hectares, it's like, well, what genetics? You got to start small to figure out, okay, what's going to work. And then, okay, well, these work, but it's like, if we want to plant 50,000 hectares, where are we going to get that seed from to do it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, this year it's a challenge. We were talking before the call. The theme of this year is, where do we get seed?
Yeah, we are doing 1 hectare this year for some textile hemp, and still it's a challenge to get the seeds you want. Now, some seed varieties, they were not available anymore, and then it's in quantities of 25 kilograms. So imagine when you have a very big operation, they want tons of seed for their production.
So in the U.S., Panda Biotech, which is another company that's fired up their facility, and it's like a 500,000 square foot facility. They put something like $100 million into it. So it's arguably the biggest facility in the world. Maybe there's a bigger one in France. Maybe there's one in China. I don't know. But it's the biggest one in the Western Hemisphere. And they got a bunch of seed from China. And I don't know if it's Yuma or whatever the genetics were. They didn't propagate. They didn't. There was a lot of problems with the seed that was put in the ground, unfortunately. And the Chinese folks are trying to make things right, but it's like you go plant 10,000 acres worth of stuff, and you get really terrible germination and shitty yields, and it's like, that's tough. you've got a facility that can process a bunch of material, and now they don't have the material and they're trying to get stuff from wherever they can. But then you're talking about shipping costs. If you're shipping stuff from the middle of, Indiana or wherever it might come from to Texas, it's like, by the time it's all said and done, your cost of stuff is like 3 or 4 times as much.
Mm.
Yeah.
And you can only, dig into your pocketbook for so long and lose money for so long before it's like, how are we going to make this work?
Mm.
Right.
Now, there are also companies in the US working on breeding US hemp genetics.
Yeah, New West Genetics, who's here in Colorado, they've been working on some hybrid varieties that are able, supposedly, to produce 2 to 2.5 times of typical varieties. So getting up to 2,000 to 2,500 to 3,000 pounds worth of seed on an acre rather than 800 to 1,000.
Mm.
And Verve Seeds in Canada, kind of the same thing. They've got some of these hybrid genetic things that they've been trialing. So you are seeing more genetic development where we can get higher yields, which will make more money for the farmer, lower cost for the consumer, or the whatever companies are going to buy it for input materials. That's where we got to get to, is better genetics that can produce. And that's why having, removing the THC percentage on this type of stuff and giving more flexibility to develop better genetics and not hold things back because of this one frickin' molecule that it's not going to make a difference in end use anyway. It's like, why put those restraints there and let nature do what it does and give the plants the best opportunity they have to produce the best materials for whatever the application, if it's food, if it's t-shirts, if it's whatever.
Mm. Yeah, you restrict the development, and also, too much focus is going on a thing which is really irrelevant, instead of what is the best genetics for the seed production, what's the best genetics for the fiber output, what's the best genetics for chive production. Maybe
Right. I mean, if the best genetics for fiber output happen to have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5% THC in them, again, why should that matter?
Yeah,
Right.
and it's also a natural thing, of course. As you probably know, in countries with more UV light, the plant uses the THC as a defense mechanism against UV. So a crop which is grown in Holland, which is beneath level, and then it's grown in Spain, then you get problems with the government, with the legislation. But there's
Right.
hurdles to overcome. I would also like to ask you, you are, of course, based in America, but with the US delegation, you also do a lot of work to spread the word of hemp across the globe and help set up industries across the globe. Can you tell us a bit more about those experiences?
Yeah, so I guess, I've been fortunate to travel, since really like 2017. I went to Poland. I went to Kurt's Hemp Today thing that he did. He used to have this gathering in October, and I went to the one, and it was in 2017. So that was like my first foray out doing a kind of a global hemp thing, and that was cool. Hannah Gabrilova was there. There was a bunch of people there from all over the place. Not a bunch, I guess there was like 25 or 30 people. It's kind of a small group, but that was cool. And then me and Rick Trojan from the Hemp Road Trip, we did a lot of traveling up until the pandemic. We went to Greece, we went to all over Europe, Belgium and Germany, and we went to Ireland, and we went to the UK, speaking and advocating on behalf of all things hemp. And then recently, the last couple of years, I've been aligned with the National Industrial Hemp Council of America, who's got USDA grants. One is a MAP grant, which is a market access program that allows U.S. operators to go do foreign delegation stuff and try to work on trade and export opportunities. And then there's another grant called the Regional Agriculture Promotion Program, the RAP grant, that allowed a good group of us to go. We've done Asia for 3 years in a row at the Asia International Hemp Expo, which we were at together a couple years ago, right, Tom? Mm-hmm. And that the Thai market has been interesting to see. it grow and kind of recede a bit. When I went there the first year in 2022, it's like, holy smokes, this reminds me of NOCO in 2018. Tons of excitement, lots of companies doing cannabinoids. I mean, that was the driving force. Extraction, genetics, and it's like really they talk about industrial hemp. They talked about the food thing and the fiber thing, but really the driving force behind everything is cannabinoids, CBD and THC too. It's like we'll see where things are at here in a few years, and sure enough, this year far less people at the event. Things are still moving forward there, but they're pulling back. There's dispensaries all over Bangkok, and they were just trying to, some of these things are pretty gray market or black markety, and so they're trying to pull that stuff back and try to refocus on doing more industrial applications for construction materials and looking at bioplastics and being able to grow things in larger acreage for the industrial side of things. So we'll see where things go there, but I applaud Thailand for being really the first Asian country outside of China to jump into things and to be able to do things that's really full cannabis, all aspects of it. We went to Peru, and Peru's got a medical market. They're getting ready to implement their industrial program, and we got to advise them, the government folks, on, here's what's worked in the U.S., Canada, and Europe, and here's not what has worked. And don't do these things. So it's good for us to be able to go speak about this. We did an event in Kenya. We did an event in Japan. Like I said, we're hopefully going to do something in South Africa next year. There's a lot of money that's allocated for these grants to do more stuff in Africa the next couple of years. And Africa's got, obviously, it's a huge continent. They got a lot of farmland. They've got opportunities and needs for doing natural-based materials and improving their food system and relying less on foreign aid and so forth. So we can have a real impact in Africa. And I'm appreciative that we've been able to take advantage of this and go speak to some of these countries and say, hey, again, this hasn't worked in Europe and the US and Canada. You should look at trying to do things this way and don't make the same mistakes that we've been making in these other parts of the world that may be ahead of you right now, but you can certainly leapfrog by avoiding these pitfalls. Mm-hmm. And, that's the message that we're going to continue to preach. And we're going to work closer with like FIHO, which I'm a member of, which is the Federation of International Hemp Organizations that AHA is part of. And so is the U.S., with I get all these acronyms. The Hemp Council that I was just talking about, the National Industrial Hemp Council and the Canadian Hemp Trade Alliance and the Latin American Industrial Hemp Association. And so if more of these organizations can work together on a global level and try to figure out how to harmonize our policy and regulations and initiatives so we can operate very similarly and don't have all these different things, and we can facilitate international trade, and we can build a legitimate industry. But having things that are so different in different countries, it just makes it really difficult. But I am hopeful that through the course of time here over the next several years, it will align things better than they have been in the past.
Yeah, I think it's a good strategy. What I hear of you, the way you are doing it now, because
we're trying to. It's so confusing because of adult use, and then the different positions that some political parties take, and then you've got the prohibitionists out there that's like, cannabis is evil, marijuana is evil, but they're fine with alcohol. And speaking of this, because I just popped into my head, it's like one of the memes that we see out there, cannabis has never killed anybody. Nobody's ever died from cannabis, blah, 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 which I think that's not true. I mean, we obviously know alcohol's killed a lot of people, but alcohol kills a lot of people because of drunk driving and being impaired. And I would guarantee that somebody has been high as a kite, has caused an accident and created death because they've been super high on weed. So, do people OD on it? Not, I mean, you can overdose, but have they died because they've consumed too much? Maybe somebody's consumed enough and that's, they've had an anxiety attack and then had a heart attack. So I would assume that that's probably happened too. But that's one of those myths. If we're dispelling myths out there, I would say that cannabis has probably killed some people somehow, or been involved in the deaths of people. Maybe they drank, maybe they smoked and they got behind a wheel, or they drove off a cliff, and cannabis played a part in it. So I'm going to dispel the myth that cannabis has, been responsible to some degree for killing people at some point in time.
Yeah, I would say, cannabis psychosis is something that, not a lot of people will admit is real,
Yeah.
for sure. It's, I at one point in my life, I don't know how many ounces I was smoking on like a monthly basis. And everybody who's, I'm 40 and I know plenty of people around my age, 10 plus years ago, we were all going to Burning Man together. We're all hanging out at, all the DComs, and we're doing this and that. And we're the partiers and stuff. And the ones of us who are still around, keyword, because some have died from other afflictions or whatever. A lot of us are like, yeah, we're all straight edge now. You know what I mean? And so it's just like, I don't want to say that I've officially like struggled with addictions or anything like that, but it's just like, there's been some moments in my life where I'm like, I gotta let this thing chill out, because like, I don't even know who I am right now, So
yeah,
I guess it takes a certain kind of person
start going down addiction holes. Alcohol, weed. People can be addicted to weed. I know people that are addicted to weed.
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't actually smoke that much. I still smoke, but I used to smoke a lot more, where it would be a daily thing. But now, not even close. It's like going to events like I did last night, Cannabis Chamber of Commerce. Obviously, there's a lot of cannabis people there, and pass around a joint and hang out and shoot the shit. That's one thing. But sitting around and pulling bongs all day, or doing dabs all day, or smoking joints all day, that's generally not good. And if you're using it medicinally, then use it medicinally. But medicinally isn't just sitting there smoking all the time. I mean, if you've got true medical conditions that require suppositories or edibles or something like that, and that's fine. But if it's just purely recreational and doing it all the time, I mean, people can do whatever they want to do, but it certainly can lead to problems in relationships and other parts of your life.
Nice. Are there any, off the top of your head, any other myths you would like to dispel, or any truths you would like to get out there that you think people got it wrong about cannabis, hemp in general?
Let's see
Like, if you could say something to Trump's face, what would you say?
If I could, I'd probably say a lot of things. It's like, dude, quit fucking dividing our country and just, hating on 2/3 of the country because of whatever particular reason. It's like, unify people rather than divide people. It's like, you're the president for the entire United States. You're not just the president for the 25% of the country that voted for you, or the 32% of the voting block, and you beat the other person by 1%, and then the people that didn't vote for you accounted for 35%. And so you're the president of everybody in the U.S. And now you're also pissing off all of our allies that have been allies for a long time. And you're siding with people who have been our enemies. And it's like, this isn't good for anybody's mindset. Try to unify and not divide. But when it comes to hemp, it's like, we have an opportunity to lead the world and bring manufacturing back to the United States. And, don't pull back all this climate commodity stuff because you think climate change is a hoax. If we want to make America healthy again, we have to have healthy soils. We have to have a healthy food and ag system. And hemp plays right into that. And we can make hundreds, thousands of products and byproducts utilizing this plant that can make America great again, bring manufacturing, create jobs, help our GDP, help make America healthy again, and be a leader in new product innovation. So that's why you should, jump on the hemp bandwagon, Donald.
Yeah.
Yeah,
America
absolutely.
happy again.
Yeah, it's like, it was part of our founding, and we did all kinds of cool hemp stuff back in the 1700s and the 1800s. And, we utilized it for all kinds of things, including medicine. We had cannabis tinctures, and that was kind of a go-to cure-all for lots of things.
Mm. And of course,
And people want to use that.
Yeah,
We should still
absolutely.
use that stuff. If we want to back off of pharmaceuticals and make those guys accountable, it's like, let's embrace natural products and botanicals and supplements and stuff. And sure, we need to make sure that those are what they say they are, and it's just not snake oil. We want people to be consuming products that are going to make them healthy again.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, and
America used to have over 2 million acres of hemp back in the day.
Yeah.
Like
And
according
another myth. So
to census data.
yeah, something else that popped into my mind. We've all seen the meme that says 1 acre of hemp produces more pulp than 4 acres of trees, or there's several of those variations out there. And
Sure.
I would say that I'm not sure that that's completely accurate. It depends on the variety, and are we talking to 1 acre versus 1 acre? Are we talking over the course of 20 years? What kind of trees are we talking about? So I would say that meme that floats around about that isn't necessarily accurate. I'd like to see whatever the data is and how they're comparing the two. We do know that hemp can make good pulp for paper, and there's ways to incorporate that into the paper system, and we can reduce our reliance on trees and tree pulp and stuff like that. So I'm not advocating against hemp paper at all. I've got a hemp paper brand, and I think we need to use more hemp into the packaging and paper process. But I don't think that meme that floats around is necessarily accurate.
Yeah, there's my favorite non-accurate one is the soy car that everybody calls the Henry Ford hemp car.
Oh,
It was mostly soy. There was definitely hemp in it, but like if you dig very deeply, what information still exists out of like the Henry Ford Museum in Detroit and all that other stuff? Like it was actually mostly soy.
Well, it was a combination of plant-based materials, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Which hemp was included in.
Yep. Yeah, they just they make the fellow marketer hemp loving people just make it sound like it was like a pure hemp composite. You know what I mean? That was meant to use hemp fuel and all this other stuff.
Right, and it ran on hemp biodiesel or whatever.
Yeah. That's my favorite one. My least favorite one is the one I always tag you in on Facebook anytime it ever shows up, is that damn hemp airplane.
That Derek dude, such a fraudster.
Yeah,
It's like people continue to share that thing.
Well, it got on USA Today.
I know he got a bunch of press on it, and it's funny. My friend, rest in peace, Mark Linday from Greenspring Technologies, who had a hemp plastic 3D printing thing and would come to NOCO, and unfortunately he passed away in 2019. But he made a hemp plastic airplane, and so he would make the post. It's like, here's the first hemp airplane, made out of plastic. So it's like, that Derek guy and me. Derek was supposed to speak on a panel with me and Preston Whitfield at what is it, Kaya Fest, which was a Marley thing in Miami, and they had asked him to be on a panel, and he was going to come. And me and Preston were like, this dude is completely full of shit. There is no hemp airplane. Everything that he put out there is not real.
Right.
He had this like hemp coin, and you could digital currency stuff, and he had multiple scams.
Yeah. I know that. I mean, I don't know the guy. So like we've established I have an aviation background. So like the hemp airplane that was basically photoshopped beige. It's from Velocity Aircraft, which it's in the experimental aircraft world, which is kind of like it's a misnomer. It just means non-certified. So you have certified like Piper and Cessna and Boeing and all these that take millions of dollars to be commercially certified and mass produced. But then you have experimental, which is just absolute cowboys in the American world. And so you have Velocity Aircraft, which is one of the most famous canard, which is like this winglet at the nose of the aircraft, and then it's a pusher, so it's got the engine pushing you in the back. It's a brilliant design, and so I called them and it was like, what's the deal? They're like, and they just, they went on a full rant about how he like photoshopped contract or whatever to make it look like it was still current and this, that, and the other thing. And like he raised money on Indiegogo, but Velocity never saw a penny, because it's like, of course you can make like me building an airplane would be like a programmer developing an app. Like I absolutely can build an airplane, no problem. You know what I mean? I would even be excited to do it if I could. And it's like I could totally do a hemp airplane for real. Like we could reskin an old Sopwith Camel with hemp instead of linen or instead of cotton, no problem. You know what I mean? And have an actual hemp airplane. And the composite work, I think it's called B Lab, maybe. I think they're out of Belgium. I don't know. He's been doing a lot of stuff with hemp and linen composites, making very complicated shapes like front end of race cars and all this other stuff. And it is very comparable to carbon fiber. You know what I mean? And I think that's so Tom and I, we were in the Natural Fiber Extraction Congress or something in Stuttgart, Germany. And a lot of the people talking during that Congress was specifically long fibers for use in composites and stuff. Like that's what a lot of people in Germany and surrounding countries are kind of betting on over here is, this is where we can use medium and long-term fibers. And since there is no definition yet, because ASTM and everyone hasn't come up with one, I say that long fibers are between 10 and 80 centimeters. Short fibers are 10 centimeters and below. And for some reason, there's no such thing as a medium fiber. But yeah.
Well, speaking of the airplane composite thing, and Bruce Dietzen with his hemp car, his Renew hemp car, he made two of them, and both of them appeared at NOCO. Well, one appeared at a hemp harvest party, the red one, and then the white one came to NOCO. And so he made two hemp cars that, it was like a Miata design. Right. And then he got a notice from Miata because of one of those retro things where he took the frame design and then built the whole thing using got the fabric thing and then created the composite thing. And however did, I think he got most of the material from Larry at Hemp Traders.
Okay.
But super cool cars and, expensive to make, but it can certainly be done. So, I mean, if you could do it with a car, certainly you could do the same thing, just like you mentioned with an airplane. But to get it approved to do commercial flights and stuff, obviously it's a long road to hit all the specs that you probably would need to hit. But it can be done. There's no question.
Yep.
You'll see more of that. I mean, it's just like the interior door panels and stuff where they're using hemp and flax and canaf composite stuff that you've seen those things all over the place. I mean, I've seen those since the get-go. Yeah. People bring those out to trade shows. They were at Thailand and they're, been at our show. Structural bricks, that's another thing. There's some cool stuff. You mentioned that before. There's several people working on structural hemp stuff for construction. And there's another guy that's going to be at NOCO this year who's got like this 3D printer that can print small homes in like a day using natural materials. And he's got a hemp application where it's, hemp herd and some special binder thing to be able to just spray and 3D print like small 400 to 800 square foot structures and stuff like that. And again, I don't know, it's not commercialized yet, but those things are coming. People have been working on this stuff under the radar for a while. So I'm excited to see where things go. And it would be nice to have funding to help develop this stuff. That's a big bottleneck with a lot of this cool stuff being done with hemp happens is because everybody's looking for money. And the grant money that was being dispersed here in the U.S. towards hemp projects, I don't know if Hempatexture is getting their $8 or $9 million that they are supposed to from the Department of Energy. A lot of this stuff's been held up, but that money certainly goes a long way to helping move the needle on some of this research and development.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Tom, you got any more questions for Mr. Morris Beagle today?
Mm, not off the top of my head, actually. No.
I know we've kind of jumped all over the place. It's like
It's been
squirrel.
Yeah, natural conversation.
This is what I wanted to happen. This is how I envisioned it.
Yeah.
We're gonna
Good. It's nice just to get on and just have a conversation and go all over the place. And I'm sure when it's all said and done and pieced together, it'll be, pretty interesting and have some good content.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You got any closing thoughts, Morris? Any little thought bubbles bubbling up?
Yeah, so I'm waiting for my leather guitar strap, my hemp leather guitar strap.
We'll talk about that. So there's this cool German. So I found out. I'll make it known mostly because I want to plug them. I can't remember their name off the top of my head. Who were they?
Revoltech.
Yeah, Revoltech. So they came out with this leather that, because I saw a press release from Volkswagen that they're looking to do some kind of plant-based leather. And so me as the technical guy, I'm like, okay, we need something that's going to last. And like that's why like when I'm doing product design for someone and they're saying like, oh, I want to use this mushroom leather or this or that or whatever, it's like, look, if you're making something within the European Union, you actually have to basically promise that it's going to last for at least 2 years, like because of like product laws here, and I'm like, I can't promise that this thing isn't going to wear out because it's such a new material. Anyway, so I contacted them just for fun, and I was like, hey, send me some. We had a Zoom call. They sent me a sheet as big as an A4 piece of paper, and I have a leather working company that I work with, and he's just been blowing me off recently. I used to do it here locally, but I took all of my tooling and gave it to that gentleman. And he's one of these people that's like constantly begging me for work when he doesn't have any. But when I have, like a one-off project or something, he's like, yeah, sure. For $1,000, I'll make one. And I'm like, really? Like for as long as we've done business together? He's like, I'm sorry, I'm just too busy. Like that's how much it costs me to like stop one of my machines in reality. Because he's busy making like tents for Volkswagen pop-up things and military contracts and stuff with Ukraine right now. So like he's my main leather working guy. And we had to go down and do something together because since we only have a little piece of material, we have to be really careful. So we have to, because like we don't really know what it is. We don't know. We have to test like 10 or 15 different glues on just little patches because I want to be able to make as many as possible. Like I want one. I want you to have one. I want them to have one. And there's for sure enough material. If we could use all of it perfectly, we could probably make 5 or 6. But like for as much as like adhesive tests and things that we need to do to like see how it ages and see how it works together, because in order for it to work, the way that it's a little bit stretchy, I'm gonna have to like reinforce it with like a carbon fiber sheet in between, so that like it does, like I told you with the first version of the guitar straps that we were making, I want this to go on a $5,000 guitar and not drop it. You know what I mean? I mean, right. With or without strap locks. And so it's just like, even though this will be like the first hemp leather prototype, I want it to still have that standard. So I'm just being anal.
I see. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, at some point it'll be done, and I look forward to getting it whenever that is.
It'll be done, and it'll be mailed to you. And we're no longer hand dyeing hemp anymore. So it's not like we're making the webbing and then hand dyeing it. Now we're finally dyeing the yarn and making just beautiful webbing, because I'm no longer buying from China, or I'm no longer buying from Romania or whatever. We're controlling the process. Which was really cool. One of the best workarounds actually is just find a company who makes the machine that makes the thing you need. Call that company and say, hey, who in my country owns your machine, sir? Because I need to work with them. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then all of a sudden you have a list of 5 places that have this machine you need, and they have the capability. It's like, hey, let's start a strategic partnership for making these materials. So
there you go. That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm hoping to do a lot. I haven't launched it yet, and this isn't going to be in the show. I'll cut this part out because I'm not trying to promote myself. But I've owned naturalwebbing.com for a while, and I want that to be like a nice little place where people can go and not just like arts and crafts and stuff, but can really see what this stuff is capable of. Because even the breaking strength on some of it is pretty substantial. So there's been like a Swedish company who wants to start using natural webbing to hold down pallets in containers because they're getting penalized for synthetic webbing. Once it gets to the port, it gets thrown away, and they call it one-way webbing. And so it's like you don't always need something that has 10,000 pounds of breaking strength. Sometimes 1,000 pounds is good enough, you know. So
Right. And when that webbing ends up in the fucking ocean too.
exactly. Well, the hemp webbing ends up in the ocean, and it just
Yeah.
disintegrates.
Go back to the organic basis.
Yeah. So, well, right on. Well, I appreciate you having me on the show. It's great to sit here and just talk off the top of our heads and be unfiltered and, and just go wherever. So I enjoyed this.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was wonderful chatting with you as well, and getting your view on things and on the hemp industry.
Yeah, a lot of stuff going on. It's not a boring industry, that's for sure. We're constantly maneuvering and pivoting and trying to figure out how to stay in business. It's been challenging. I'm still optimistic for the future, though. I think that in the end, that hemp will be a significant crop throughout the world and provide materials to a ton of different industries and have a positive impact. So I'm still optimistic.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
A lot of seeds being planted, light shining, and a lot of people pushing it.
There's opportunities throughout the entire value chain for people to be successful. Not everybody's going to be successful, but those that hang in there and have a good business model and know how to scale and run things correctly, they'll be successful.
Absolutely.
We need more money in the industry, though. Let's get those VCs and family offices and people with impact funds that want to do the right thing after they've made tons of money in pharmaceuticals and petroleum and, screwed up the earth. It's like now time to do something right.
Yeah.
Of course, correct.
I think that sustainability, of which, as I keep saying, hemp is the number one tool for me. I mean, come on, there's just so much money that can be made with this new green economy. Like, it's not about being a green zealot like that government fellow from Florida calls me and others like me. It's just like, hey, let's be rational green zealots then. Let's, you know what I mean? Let's do something good. We can make a lot of money changing the economy into this new sustainable economy without tanking other economies. We can wean ourselves off of things and dive in headfirst into others. With my military background, I always think of things like war. And for me, like, I'm at war with pollution, and unsustainable things. And so we should be using, hemp used to be used as a military industrial complex plant, used to use your hemp for your sails, ropes, and uniforms, and then you'd burn the herds and the leftovers for gunpowder. So now it's a different war.
Right. Well, I agree. I'm not a zealot when it comes to this stuff. I consider myself like a green libertarian, where it's all of the above. Let's see. We're not going to get rid of certain things, and how can the hemp industry work with the petrochemical and the fossil fuel industry? They've got great technology out there, and they need assistance and remediation and cleaning up some of the stuff that they've been doing over the years. And hemp is good for that, loss prevention materials, and for fracking, and for orphan wells that are still leaking CO2 and methane and stuff, and being able to clog those things. There's a variety of uses where the green industry can work with the fossil fuel industry, and there's no other way to do it than to collaborate together on this type of stuff, because we're not getting rid of certain things. And the anti-green movement people that think that it's just all BS, it's like, it's not. We got to combine renewables with what's currently going on and wean ourselves off into a direction over the next 50 years to be more reliable on the renewable side, solar and wind and stuff that's grown from the ground rather than extracted from the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
We got to get past some of these zealots on both sides and find a happy medium ground where we can all work together and understand what our end goal is. And our end goal is to provide a planet for our kids and grandkids that isn't destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, oceans that you can still go fish in, and it's just not full of nothing but, you know, dead,
Right.
you know. So it's
It's wild. We can close on any thought that we want to for sure, but like Trump renamed the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America, and I'm like, I don't want America's name on that Gulf. Like, you know how gross and polluted it is. I don't. Like, I'll never swim in it ever. After that oil spill, when they used all those crazy dispersants to literally sink the oil and hide it, I don't want to go in that. I don't want the name after America.
Well, it's the Gulf of Mexico. It's been that forever. It's like, I don't know the whole thing.
It's silly.
But now we might take over Greenland and Canada too.
Oh,
you never know.
Well, who knows what's going to happen? I'm just sitting here in Poland hoping we don't have like a legit World War III next door. So, you know,
I know you're pretty close to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, at least if anything goes sideways, I'm fortunate enough that I can go live in the middle of nowhere, Michigan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can just go back home.
There you go.
But I would rather not. I'd rather this stay home. I've been making, you know, dozens of jobs here and all this other stuff trying to impact the local economy positively. I don't want to leave. Just because some political craziness. But you know, it is what it is. Tom, you want to go ahead and close this out?
Yeah. Yeah, the goal in general is to create peace and create a green oasis again. And we are all pushing for it. And it's a wonderful thing that Morris is doing it locally in the US and also across the globe. The same for you, Michael, creating positive change locally. And I aim to do the same thing. And I hope everyone watching is doing his best also to create positive change in his direct vicinity, because small change will develop and evolve into big change. And I would like to thank everyone for watching, and see you next time.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.